What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at my custom Marvel Legends GROOT. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe and check out my Instagram page. That's where I post most of my content. My goal is to have the perfect 112 version of each of my favorite characters. GROOT is kind of a peripheral character, but he's one of those characters in Guardians of the Galaxy that really stands out just because of the way that he's designed. GROOT's design really lends itself to adding a lot of detail with texture and paint. And the first thing that I did to make this custom was use an X-Acto knife to scratch out a wood grain texture over the entire figure. Now, I just kind of followed the wood grain that was already there in an attempt to basically physically increase the resolution and the level of detail. And I'm not joking when I tell you that this gave me tendinitis. Like, I had to stop doing it because my hands would hurt so bad. So I had to split this up over a couple of months. So I harvested GROOT's bark cheeks, his Gluteus Maximus, his GROOTs, to make these flaps that cover the hip joint, and they move out of the way when you articulate. And because I harvested them from his posterior, I had to sculpt some new ones for him, so that was my first ever sculpting job. And then I kind of threaded some elastic through the hip and glued the cheeks to the front. Next, I cut away a lot of the diaphragm under the chest to give a more natural and organic look. And I replaced a lot of the inner workings with some pieces from an NW Toys body. The goal of that being to increase GROOT's expressivity in his posing. He doesn't have a huge range of motion, but at least he can tilt his head and kind of lean a little bit more than he could before. Now, in theory, he should be able to move more than he does, but once you actually put all the pieces back together, the articulation, especially at the diaphragm, is a lot more limited than I would have liked. And because I kind of had to cut the neck out of this single piece, I had to re-sculpt some of that so it was a little more aesthetically pleasing. And the sculpting putty that I used is called Green Stuff. It's pretty simple. You just mix the blue and yellow components together, and then you have about 90 minutes before it hardens. I used it on all of the joints to cover up all the pegs. And like I mentioned earlier, this was my first ever sculpting job, so it does not take a pro to do this. Once all the physical modifications were done, it was time for painting, and I started off with a dark wash, followed up by a light dry brush to bring out all that detail. It was still looking a little plain, so I got some hobby turf meant for train models, and this stuff is awesome. I didn't need to paint it at all. It's the perfect color, and I just looked at reference images to know where I should put it. I don't remember the exact brand that I got, but I got this at Hobby Lobby, and it's really messy, so be aware of that. I also opted for the finest level that they had just to more accurately recreate 1/12 scale moss. I just applied super glue wherever I wanted to put it and then sprinkled it on. And so far, it's proved to be very durable. I haven't had any problems with it coming off. And it's just one of those things that makes GROOT look like GROOT. Another detail that's really important to get right is GROOT's eyes. GROOT's eyes are how we connect with him, and these kind of make me feel like he wants to kill me or something. Now compare that with these eyes. These eyes definitely don't look like they want to eat me or steal my soul like the Toys R Us exclusive. So I did my best to recreate the Hot Toys in 1/12 scale. As you can see, I kind of added color at the corners of the eyes to replicate those really big irises. And then to get this glossy effect, I used some gloss varnish from Vallejo paints. And for all the other surfaces, I used Tamiya TS80 flat clear. Make sure that it's the flat clear because you don't want the wood to be glossy. Now, the Vallejo acrylic paints that I used weren't glossy per se, but there were some areas that still looked a little bit plasticky. But this Tamiya spray really took care of that and really sells the wood texture. And it supposedly doubles as kind of a sealant, so I don't have to worry about the paint or the moss coming off. But I haven't tested that to its limits. Now, going over articulation, there are going to be a few differences from the standard Marvel Legends, one of those being the shoulders. They are a little bit smoother. They're not ratcheted like the joints originally were, because I switched out the components for a different figure. It's also got this bicep swivel. He has double jointed elbows that get you way past 90. He also has these wrist joints that can swivel and move back and forth. The neck has several ball pegs in it, and it allows for a pretty decent range of head tilt. and the neck can also move up and down, a little bit side to side, a little bit of attitude, a little bit of leaning. At the diaphragm, he can swivel, not so much forward, quite a bit back, but I don't know why I would use that. And he has a little bit of side to side, which he didn't have before, so if that's all that I got from switching out all the parts, then I'm happy with it. He still has that kind of weird ratcheted hip joint, but the GROOT cheeks really help in covering that up and make everything look good, and they function really well too. And he's got a single jointed knee that works just fine, as well as some ankle pivot. And as you can see, there is some of that original color poking through there, but I don't really mind because I'm never going to use that joint. I'm pretty much always going to have GROOT standing in the background like a tree. Moving on to size comparisons, here he is next to the SHF Rocket Raccoon, Mezco Spider-Man Homecoming, the Mezco Black Panther, my custom Doctor Strange, my custom Star-Lord, my custom Netflix Daredevil, my custom First Avenger Captain America, the Noda Studio Logan with a custom jacket, the Comic Cave Iron Man Mark 46, Fantascraft Iron Man Mark 85, the Extreme Toys Arkham Knight Batman, my custom Thor, and my customized Figma Hulk. Well, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I'm really happy with how this GROOT turned out. And if you think this might be the perfect 112 GROOT, why don't you subscribe, leave a comment, and check out my Instagram page at Perfect112 Customs, where you can find more content like this.